Hey everyone, it is Neha here with College Shortcuts. I hope you're having an incredible day. I am really excited about day 2, where I'm going to be talking to you about the most important step of the college admissions process. That is specifically in regards to the college list. Now, before I get started, I want to do a quick commercial to start our video. All right, great. Okay, so glad to see so many of you guys logging on here today. So today I'm going to be talking about specifically building out the college list. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because a lot of people do not focus on this step heavily. I was talking to quite a few parents over the last year, and they said, look, we did not know how to build the college list. There was too many factors. We just didn't know what to do, and we just kind of went with what the school said. The high school said. And so they actually missed a lot of chances that they could have had. So one of the things I like to tell parents is your child misses 100% of the shots that they never even try to take. So when you're building your college list, you shouldn't think about it from the standpoint of, I'm going to build this list just based upon my kid's ability to get in. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but the reason why I say that is because I'm trying to fix my necklace here today. There we go. The reason why I say that is it's okay to pick some schools, not all of them, but a certain amount of schools where your kid may not have the likelihood of getting in, but at least you tried. And I'll tell you why I say this. 69% of students that applied to Stanford in the last 2 years that had perfect SATs, perfect ACTs, perfect GPA got rejected from Stanford. So it's not just about the factors that you may think are important, because when you applied, it was completely different. So that's why today I'm going to be talking to you about what it really takes to build a very well-rounded college list. Now, if you're here with me today, I see a lot of people logging in. Please remember to like the video. Yep. Hit the little like button right below. And then also I'd love to know where you're from. So please put in your city and your state. And then I am going to also, let me go ahead and put in the link specifically to our challenge so that you can get the free roadmap downloadable PDF. So let me go ahead and put that in. Oh, we got a like. Hi, Ritu. Nice to see you. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. So we're getting some likes in. Wonderful. Let me go ahead and put this link in below as we're waiting for a lot of people to come on. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay, here is the link to get access to that amazing. Let me see if I can pin that. Wow, Ritu, you're from Austin, Texas. Nice. Very cool. Okay, awesome. I love it. I used to live in Austin, Texas at one point in my life. It's the best place ever. Okay, so guys, I'm really excited to have you guys on here today specifically about building the college list. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen with you guys here so that you are able to kind of just look through a little bit of what I'm going to do here. So let me go ahead and switch over to screen here. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to pick what I would call a prettier font. I like Garamond. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to 25. No, let's do 35 for all my ladies out there that need glasses. Okay, so college list specifically. Now, there are some specific factors that by the time you're building your college list can be unchangeable. So for example, the GPA, which is why I tell parents if you don't start early in getting the assistance you need, looking into what it is you're needing for the college process as early as middle school and earlier like 9th, 10th grade, this is the one factor that is changeable up until about 11th grade, meaning your kid can absolutely work on that number easily and efficiently. The next one is the SAT and ACT score. That also is changeable up until end of 11th grade with enough practice. Okay, so I'm going to bold these. And then the next thing to also look at are a few different factors. So I want to kind of get into what I mean by that when I mean different factors. So you've got the college list, and they're going to be based on these two, what I called numerical factors below. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Okay, then there's non-numerical factors. Okay, these are the ones that most families end up fighting about, just to be totally real and honest with you. Location, major choice, school type, size of school, tuition costs. It's a big one that people are concerned with. Tuition's gone up by almost 100% in the last 10 to 12 years, so understandably it is going to be a thought there. And, in terms of like gender, co-ed or not, Ivy League / competitiveness. So as you can see, there are a lot of factors here to building this college list. Now, let me kind of walk through these specific factors. Now, let's talk about specifically the GPA here. Now, the GPA is one of the biggest factors, and I'm going to kind of just switch over to my face. The GPA is one of the biggest factors. Let me explain to you why. So, when it comes to the GPA, what's happening is, and I'll tell you my own story. Actually, that might be the easiest way to do this. So I went to a top level high school where I was placed in all honors and AP. That was strategized since middle school. Just so you know, that was not a last minute decision or trying to push me in. I was on that track early on because I had shown great academic status early on that shows, okay, she should totally be in an honors class, so she's challenged well enough. So I was in all honors, all AP, and I was making solid grades. And then, for example, to get into a school like Rice University, it takes your consistency, your diligence, your willingness to learn, willingness to fail and get up fast to be able to go to school like that. Now, I will tell you, as someone who spoke at my high school graduation, who was a top student, I was studying harder than I ever have in my entire lifetime at Rice University. There were nights that I was up till 2 a.m. studying and spending a lot of time in the library. But it tends to attract a student that is at the top of their game academically who really has a love of learning. I mean, look at what I do for a living. It's pretty obvious I love what I do and I love learning. So I want you to understand that, yes, you want to build a college list that's effective, but you need to look at your kids' GPA and make sure they can survive at that college. I've seen a lot of parents that will look at the U.S. News World Report list and say, that's the college list we want to do, without even thinking about, is this a good fit for my child? I'm going to type that in as a non-numerical factor there. I'm going to go ahead and, so I'm getting some messages. Let me go ahead and turn off my notifications. Okay, so let's get back to GPA discussion, all right? So I'm going to share my screen again. So this is completely changeable up until 11th grade. So what I mean by that is that if your child is specifically in 9th or 10th grade and you're seeing these grades drop, well, this is the time for you to get a tutor in place or to talk with the teachers, or to get the help that you need that can absolutely change the GPA. Because a school will not accept a student with a bad GPA because their concern is dropout or fail rate. So you have to understand that while we all hate the fact that numbers matter or the fact that, we get judged by this, well, it is a way for them to understand what your child's academic capability is, and so that way you're successful at it. Let's move on to the test side of it, the SAT, ACT, which is completely up to your family to do well on this test. Now, this is an entrance exam, and I want you guys to hear a little story here. Kids in India, just so you know, they will take like years off to study for college entrance exams. Maybe not the SAT or ACT, but they take it religiously, seriously, every single day, 7 days a week. It's just understood to get into a top school like an IIT, which is twice as hard as getting into than Harvard. So I don't know why it is we have this kind of block around the SAT or ACT being a nuisance or being useless or being frustrating, because in reality, the test score does help schools to understand where your child falls in the spectrum of doing well in their school. Again, if you look at private schools, there's entrance exams to go into top private schools. So if we can all understand that that is a massive factor, then and let go of just like the frustration around it. Yes, a lot of teenagers don't want to do it. I was talking to a mom recently, and her kid was like, I just don't feel like studying for the SAT. Well, that's what you signed up for when you decided to want to go to college. If you don't want to go to college, then that's awesome. Don't go. But if that is something you are deciding to do, then you should know the steps that go along with it. It's kind of like if you take a job and you say, okay, well, I only want to do this stuff. Whew, almost knocked myself over. I only want to do this stuff, but I don't want to do the other 40% of my job. And actually, I don't feel like working on Tuesdays and Thursdays either, so I'm just not going to show up. Is that cool with you? It's the same thing when it comes to the SAT and ACT. It's like, if we don't teach our kids that there are things that sometimes in life you don't want to do to get the result, then we're going to raise another generation of what they call millennials, or kids that only do what they want when they want. And yes, while I do believe you can build a lifestyle design of that, 90% of the population does do tasks they don't feel like doing. So the SAT and ACT, let me get to my screen again here. The SAT and ACT are extremely important to look into, and it should be looked at in the college list building. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. When you are looking at different colleges, you want to look at the freshman profile and what the average SAT score was. For example, let's say Rice or Stanford's is a 35 or 34 or 33 average on the ACT, and your kid is making a 20, most likely your kid will not be accepted at those types of schools. So knowing that information and knowing you have full control over what that score can be just based on practice, that is something to be looking into. And you can start studying for these tests as early as sophomore year at minimum. So I want you to know, we've even seen 7th and 8th graders do incredible on the Duke tip as well. Now, one of the things I always say specifically around the test prep side of things is that it's not about just getting the perfect score. I told you when I started this video, 69% of students were rejected with a perfect score at Stanford, right? So it's not about getting a perfect score, but it is about getting a really good score, and that means putting all of your best into it. So one of the things that my parents did, it's kind of a big mistake, but they didn't know what they were doing, is they put me in 2 different programs. I'm not saying the names because I run a tutoring company called Elite Private Tutors. And I do love all the companies out there that are helping students. So just my heart is with anyone that runs anything that helps students. But they put me in 2 different programs that required me to be in 3-hour-long classes outside of everything I already did. And they found that my scores weren't really increasing. When we signed up for a one-on-one result package, which was more expensive, we saw my grades and scores on the test increase by massive amounts. And so when people ask me, Neha, why don't you run classes for your tutoring with Elite Private Tutors for SAT, ACT? While yes, we could make a lot more revenue stuffing a bunch of kids in a classroom, to me it's about how do we actually drive the result in the shortest amount of time? What is the shortcut? So that is why we specifically focus on having some of the best coaches to come in and tutor your child, whether it's online, so your kids are in their PJs having a blast learning SAT, or in person. Our goal is to make sure that you are getting that one-on-one approach, because the kids are already busy, like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. school, 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock homework, weekend activities. For them to add on a 6-hour commitment to test prep, instead of getting the exact help they need, that's why you see a lot of students that have bad scores. So I want to get back to this again. So GPA is up to you. So is the SAT and ACT score. So let's talk about some other factors that are just as important when it comes to building the college list, the non-numerical factors. Now, this is where what I would say college consulting and strategy can be extremely beneficial for your child in this process. Let me tell you why. You have two adults usually that are trying to make the decision, or one, with a teenager on exactly what is the right fit for them. Now, these are some of the things that teenagers' factors are. My boyfriend or girlfriend goes there. My best friend said it's awesome. The Greek life rocks. So as you can see, some priorities are a little different here. And, that is not good when you're making a lifetime decision. You're making a lifetime decision when it comes to your entire future. Now, that's why I talk about the importance of having a mentor in this process, because a lot of times teenagers will be kind of pushing towards something, and the parents are having a real challenge with saying that's not a great idea, and then the teenager says, well, that's exactly what I want to do then if you disagree with me. So I see some people logging in. If you are logging in, please type in your city and state below, or type in what grade your kid is in, because that way I know. And then please ask questions. This is a live video here. Super excited here. I want to say hi to a few of you guys. Hi, Sanjay. Nice to see you. Hi, Ritu. Hi, Pooja. Hi, Carrie Ann. Great to see you as well. I see a lot of people that are logging in. Thank you for the likes. If you do like the video, that makes a big difference. It makes me even more happier, and it makes it great for the Facebooks. And make sure you do register for your free PDF below with the little pinned comment I have. Now I'm going to take a minute here and go to a quick commercial about
Have an overwhelmed student? Bad grades? Low test scores? Or just unable to focus? When it is time for you to find a tutor for your child, just tell us what you need. You can pick from elite, master, or ultimate coaches that I have personally handpicked.
My name is Gretchen. I'm from a small town in Texas, and I was valedictorian in my graduating class.
Valedictorian of my high school class.
I graduated top 1% of my high school.
With a GPA of 3.9 out of 4.
4.0 out of 4.0.
And on our website, you can find in-depth photo and video profiles of each one. And on top of it, you receive a free trackable tutoring report after every single session. Unheard of in the tutoring industry. Moms love working with us because we make their lives easier.
I've had very good experiences with all of the tutors that I've encountered. They're polite, they're together. Kelly made honor roll for the spring semester. I've recommended Elite private tutors in the past and will continue to do so.
Join and book free through our online scheduling system to have a tutor smiling and at your door tomorrow. We make moms' lives easier in academic coaching, test prep, college consulting, personal coaching, and much more. Call today.
All right, guys. So, bell's ringing, right? Now, the reason why I think it's so important for people to realize the importance of getting help is because Kelly, for example, that mom that I absolutely love, we worked with, never dreamed of getting on a roll ever. And so having the right mentors, the right people in place can make a complete difference. So when you look at the college building list, it's a factor of things that are built upon work from, upwards of 7th grade onwards. And so if your kid is not on the right track, you really need to consider it. Now, let me go ahead and switch over to my screen here so you can see the differences between, what a student thinks is important versus, what is actually important. So let's talk about a few of these factors when you're building out the list. Location. Now, like I said on my last video, some parents will say things like, oh, I want my kid to go to college, but I want them to stay within a 4-hour driving distance. And another parent will say, well, I want to see where they get in based on their best academic choices in life. And then the teenagers' response is, I don't know anymore, but definitely not cold weather. So that's a pretty large chunk of, having different opinions. And sometimes having a third party can help to peel that out where you can actually find a compromise. For example, let's say there's a certain type of major choice they have, and as a consultant, they can say, look, this school's really good if you are open to being, a 4-hour flight away versus a 4-hour drive away, but you're still close enough. There's lots of flights available, and they have one of the best programs for this major. So these factors actually all work together. They're not by themselves. The next thing you want to look at is the major choice, and it's the biggest question people have. Biggest. Let me tell you why it's so important to pick a school that has great major opportunities. I was working with a student last year named John, and he was interested in doing something in the computer science field. Now, lots of schools have computer science as programs. That's not a problem. But certain schools that may not be what they call name brand schools, the ones that you can talk about at a cocktail party and feel really awesome about it. But that program at that specific school they're going to has one of the most diverse programs for college, for computer science. And so while it may not be the name brand school, they had upwards of 60 to 70 different little sectors within the major, and they were known for that. But the only thing I have to say about it that was really cool, when they went to visit, they had to choose between a name brand school and a not name brand school with high levels of focus in that major. They ended up choosing the school, and I was a little surprised because we got them into a school that a lot of kids wish they could get into. But the reason why was they visited the school twice in the end after getting in. And John said to me, Neha, it's like I finally met people like me. And that was huge for John. We worked with him since 7th or 8th grade. And he was one of those kids that wasn't the popular kid. He wasn't the kid that fit in with everybody. To me, he was kind of like a wise old soul in a young person's body. And so he was always kind of a few steps ahead all the time. Not just academically, but just maturity-wise. The stuff that most high schoolers are concerned with, he didn't really care about. And so when he visited the school, he met kids like him, and now he is so happy there. So it's really important to make sure you are looking at schools based on the major choice. So that's really important for you to look at. The next thing I want to talk about is school type. So for example, and this is really important to know, school type is super important. And let me explain to you why school type is important. Let's say your kid goes to a massive public school, and say it's 2,000 kids per grade or something crazy like that. But then you end up getting into a tiny private school. Do you know how hard it is for students to adjust to small environments where there's group dynamic and you have to be kind of careful and you can't just throw away people and it's just a tinier school and a lot of people are always talking and this and that? Well, that's a huge shift. Vice versa. If you send your kid to a private small school, ooh, I got a heart. I got a heart. Thanks, Jamie. You're awesome. Oh my God. Anyone that's on, please like her. If you can heart it, can you guys please heart the video? This is so cool. I didn't realize I can see the heart. And then of course, please say hi. Let me know what grade your kid is in because I'll tailor this based on what I see in the comments. Okay. So where was I at? I was at school fit. Yes. So if your kid goes to a small private school and then you send them to a massive school, they can feel pretty lost in the process. And we've seen this a few times where parents will pick schools based on name brand and then the kid is really not happy there. And in the end, you really want your child to be happy, right? That's kind of the end goal. Happy kid, successful, you've taught them all the values you want, and they really are staying safe and secure and doing well in that college. That's really the end goal of building this college list. And so you have to have these detailed conversations with them about things like large size or small size and all of that information. Let's go to size of school. Okay, I went into that. I talked about school type, perfect, private versus public. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, which is tuition costs. Okay, wait, let me switch back over to me. Hi, guys. Oh my gosh, look, we're getting so many responses. Hi, Bins, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Oh my gosh, Jamie's got a 7th grader, which is awesome. Okay, perfect. And then Jodina is in New York, got a 10th grader. Okay, amazing. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of parents, different parents are logging in. I know there's a lot more watching that are not talking, but that's okay. The importance about this is to make sure that you're understanding all the different factors. Okay, tuition costs. So this is a big one that parents are concerned about, but they're worried to have these conversations with their child. Some families we work with will say, Neha, tuition is not an issue. Let's not even bring it up as a topic. So we skip over it. But a lot of families it is. And so you need to have conversations with your child about applying to schools that are affordable for you as a family. And I'll tell you a great example why. I was working with a family. We got them into an Ivy League institution, and because that's what was asked of us. And later on, the mom was pretty upset because now she doesn't know how she's going to afford it for her child. Now, we had asked specifically before, Jamie, yes is the answer to that question. We'd asked specifically before, we went into the process, like, are these colleges a good fit? Have you looked into all the details? They said yes, because they wanted to shoot for the stars, which I'm in total agreement with. But you have to also make sure you can afford what you're doing. Either you're getting student loans, or you're figuring that part out, or you've got certain programs in place that can make it easier for you, or you've decided to spend a lot of time applying for scholarships, which, by the way, can start as early as second grade for the process. So I want you to understand that it's really important to think about tuition costs, and especially when it comes to the FAFSA and the forms. They're not based on just right at the time when you fill it out. It's based on like the years ahead. So there's a lot to know about that. I am not a financial advisor, but I will tell you that it is a factor to look into, and it is something you should talk about with your child. And then I want to talk about, obviously, gender. It's super easy. Some students want to go to one gender school. Some don't, but you should have that conversation. Usually people are open to co-ed. The next one is about competitiveness. Now, this is a super hot button topic because a lot of times when you're building out a college list, you'll be more focused on the name brand of the school. But if that is going to be part of your college list, you have to be willing and open to applying to more schools rather than less, because a lot of them are what we call harder to get into, or no matter where you're at in your grade, even if you're valedictorian, you can still get rejected. So you have to be okay with that. And that's a big one I tell parents all the time. I have a student we're working with that just started with us, a junior, and sixth in the grade, GPA wise. So working with them on SAT prep to get that score up, because once that score's up, like, they already have like a high GPA, and we're going to work on college stuff for them. This student could easily get into an Ivy League if they have the right mentorship and the right person in place. Their parents, we got to a point where they were realizing that their methods were not effective in making this process fun and easy. And so they found us online on Facebook and said, wow, let's go ahead and move forward. And we do this with students all the time. So anyways, what I want to say is competitiveness. It is important to know that it's okay if your child does get a rejection letter, because like I said earlier, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And what if you were trying to just protect your child and say, let's just not shoot so hard for the stars because, well, if you get rejected, it's like, and I always talk to the parents. I was talking to a dad about this, and I said, you're a successful person in life as a dad, from what I can tell. Have you ever faced rejection? Has your wife ever rejected you when you were first dating? He goes, yeah. Ugh, it was so hard. I said, in business, have you ever had clients that rejected you? And they said, yes, I have. I said, okay, so why are you shielding your son from a rejection letter when that's completely part of life? And he was like, well, when you put it that way, I said, look, it's your job as a parent to protect. That's your natural instinct. You don't want your kid to be upset or hurt or frustrated. That's your job. It's not like when your kid breaks its leg, you're like, oh, tough it up, right? Like, it's your job as a parent to protect your kid. That's what mama bears do. And I get that. But in this process, there's ways to reframe it where you can apply to competitive schools and still feel okay about getting in or not getting in, and knowing that you literally did all of the things that you can do, and knowing if you did your best. You know, when I work with students, they're like, by the time they're done with the process with us, they're like, dude, these colleges are lucky to have me. And like, if I don't get in, like, that's their loss. That's how students look at it when they have the right mentor in place. And so I think that's really important to realize that it is okay to apply to competitive schools, but it's the best way to do it is to put your best foot forward, to have a consultant by your side who can really help you in the process, really to up your chances specifically in getting in. Let's talk specifically about the fit. This is a big one as well. Fit is in regards to knowing and understanding your child and making sure that you're picking schools based on their personality type, based on their success as a student, and working with someone who really knows a lot about different schools. So let me explain to you what that means when I say good fit. For example, we're working with a student right now who's a little shy. She's a little introverted. She doesn't like to get out there much, but it's about finding the right fit for her from her academic standpoint, from her willingness to push hard, for being successful in that college, not just a name brand school again, but finding the right fit for the child. You may not know this, but 1 in 5 students transfer schools. That's 20% of kids will leave a college because they didn't find the right fit based on all the factors I've listed above. Another reason why, a lot of them are doing it based on these stupid reasons below. My boyfriend or girlfriend goes there. Okay, yeah, tell me how many people marry their high school sweethearts, like 1 in 100, right? My best friend said it's awesome. The Greek life rocks, or as I told my parents once, the boys are gorgeous here. Yeah, I know. My mom and dad were like, seriously, Neha, are you kidding? I mean, it was still a good college, but I was like, wow, they're really nice looking. So I think it's really important for people to realize that these comments are, they're, 20%, right, Jamie? Jamie's like, what, 20%? I'm like, yeah, 20% of students typically will consider transferring. And it's a problem. It's a major problem because you're working with a college counselor at school who doesn't know your child that well. They're really just doing these based on only 2 factors. They're literally just looking at the numerical factors about your kid, and they're not looking at the non-numerical factors. There's so many more here, but I'm just putting a few here so that you have them. I'm a little bit of a spelling stickler, obviously, because we edit essays and we're really intense like that. So this is kind of the level of work you will get from a school counselor. Okay, that's all they can do. It's easy, fast, quick. You can easily build a list on this. These parts here, this is the part where getting outside help is crucial in the process right here. That's a really ugly color. Let's find a pretty one. Yeah, okay, Neha's having a hard time with color choices. We'll just leave it with this. Yeah, having a hard time here. But yeah, so this is the difference between when you work with a college counselor at school versus the non-numerical factors where you go super in-depth and you have 1 or 2 consultants that are really finding out that list. And then we, of course, work through these factors here, like I want to become a hip-hop dancer, so I want to go to college near Los Angeles, or, I want to study soccer, or I want to just study abroad all the time. I want to apply to colleges that don't have essay requirements. I mean, I've heard every excuse in the book. These are just the only appropriate ones I can put on the screen. So once you have gotten all of these factors figured out, everyone that's on, please like or heart the video. Oh my gosh, Gladys hearted my video. Hey Gladys, nice to see you. So please go ahead and like and heart the video. If you have a question, I'm taking questions right now, so please go ahead and ask. Alright, so numerical factors, GPA or the SAT, ACT score. They're extremely important. Yes, you can make changes. Yes, get the help that you need. Second, Non-numerical. You've got to think about things like location, the major options, the school type, the extracurricular activities, the size of school, tuition costs, the competitiveness, and good fit for your child. Many factors that parents hear from their child are, my boyfriend or girlfriend goes there, my best friend said it's really good, they like it there, the Greek life rocks, or my best friend said it sucks, also an option too. The boys are gorgeous here. I want to become a hip hop dancer, so I want to go live near LA. I want to study soccer. I just want to study abroad all the time. I just want to pick all colleges that have no essay requirements. These are absolutely horrible reasons, but we hear it all the time from students. All the time. So, let's get into what it really takes to build that list. College List 101. There are what we call reach, dream, target, safety. Now, let me tell you what I see in the average college list when someone doesn't work with someone. So, on average, students will make a list together that has 8 reach or dream schools, 3 targets, and 1 safety. Now, let me get into what these mean. A reach dream school is like, for example, a Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Yale, University of Michigan, depending on where your kid is academically. It can even be like a University of Miami. It can be a University of Texas. It can be UCLA. Really depends on where your kid is at. Oh my God, I just got a happy face from Jamie, a smiley face. Oh my gosh, you guys can do all sorts of things here. I can't believe it. It's not just like you can do more emoticons. You guys should do more emojis then. Just surprise me. Okay, I have no idea how many emoji options there are here. This is so cool. Okay, so let's talk about it. Reach dream schools. These are the ones that are way above where your kid can get in based on the SAT, ACT, or GPA requirements. Also, what makes a reach or dream school is the level of competitiveness. For example, schools like Stanford that have less than a 5% acceptance rate, it don't matter if you got perfect grades or GPA, that's still a dream school. That is never a target for nobody, okay? And I try to tell students this all the time because I was that kid. I was like, of course I should get into everyone. I'm so smart. Okay, well, great, no one cares. The point is that it is highly competitive, and you have to be ready for that, and you gotta stick some thick skin in that game. So, reach and target schools are very different. Target schools. Target schools are like schools that you are most likely going to get into. Meaning, target schools are like, let's say the freshman profile is 1,300 and your kid has a 1450 on the SAT. Let's say the target school's GPA is a 3.8 requirement, your kid has a 4.9. That is a target to kind of almost a safety because just based on numerical requirements, they're probably going to be throwing money at your kid to get them in because your kid falls into the bell curve of the higher level students. They love to accept those types of students. So that's important to understand for target just based on numericals there of what makes sense for your kid. Now, the nuances were all the other factors I talked about with you because you need to understand those factors while weeding out all of the schools. If you're just basing schools on those specific things, and I've seen parents do it, it's kind of gross to me, honestly, just on the numerics, well, then you end up with, that 20% rate of transfer, and we see it all day long. I help kids with transfer applications. I get it. Let's talk about safety. Most students are like, about their safety schools, which I find kind of funny because safety schools can sometimes be someone's target school. So I treat all schools equally. Now, safety schools are schools where your kid will, no matter what, be at the top at that school. Meaning, for example, how do I say this? So let's say you are looking at a school that's like typical people can get in. It could be like a local college or a state school that's easy for your kid to get into. But the difference between it is the fact that your kid is already at the top of that school. So for example, my cousins, I have 2 cousins that I have a lot of cousins, obviously. I'm brown. But I have some that went to Ivy Leagues. I've got some that went to Georgetown, Penn, Columbia, you name it, Rice, Babson. There's a ton of us smarty chicks in my family. Then some went to regular local colleges, and they were like in the honors program, like the top level. They had like lots of their tuition given for free, but they wanted to stay close to home, So that was a massive factor in the entire decision-making process, which limited their list extensively. Now, let's talk a little bit about building this list. So this is an example of a bad list. Now, before I get into it, I want you to hear from a mom that we worked with that was absolutely incredible.
Hi, my name is Lauren Slocum Lahab, and I am honored to be here to talk about Elite Private Tutors and what they did for my son, Joss. Joss, great kid, big heart, but pretty much an average student. And he was really concerned when his senior year came up. He was like, Mom, I don't know if I can get into the colleges that I really want. So when I found Elite Private Tutors, they really understood my son, and we were committed to helping him create a great essay. And they were so great about asking him really great questions, understanding who he is as a person and his mission. And I'm so grateful to them for helping my son understand that he didn't have to have a perfect SAT, he didn't have to have the perfect grades, and that he could still shine, and he got in every college that he desired. So I'm extremely grateful, and I can't wait for my other two kids to work with Elite Private Tutors.
All right. See, like I told you, it's about getting to know your kid well, which is what we do, and then also making sure that you understand it doesn't have to be all about the scores. There's so much more to the application process. So let's get into specifically the list that we see typically. So this is what I call a bad list. This is where we've got too many reach schools, which typically have harder applications, bad list, a few targets, and a few safeties. This is what a good list looks like. Reach, Dream is, it depends on how much work your kid is willing to do. This is a good, let's call this the good list. Reach, Dream would be 3 to 4, target would be 4, and safety would be 2 to 3. So on average, we're looking at roughly 11 schools. Now, let me make this all a little smaller again. So this is an example of a bad list. This is an example of a good list. Now, if you wanted to do an extraordinary list, you would have closer to 15 schools. You would add +2, and you'd have probably like +2 here, and maybe like +1 here. Okay, now, a bad idea, this is called amazing list, if you're willing to put the work in. This is a good list. Now, if you did, let's say you want to do, this is what I call a bad list as well, roughly 20 to 25 schools. That's where you add in way too many schools. So, as you can see, there's ways to have an imbalanced list and say, oh, I'm still applying to 12 schools. Well, not really, because you could get 8 no's. This is what we would call a much more balanced out list based on all of the factors here above, building out this list. And when I say good fit, like I said, personality type, likeliness to have friends, good activities, balanced lifestyle. These are all things that have to go into this college list building to get to this list here. Now, what I want you to understand is this is what happened. This is a list gone wrong. And we see a lot of students do this over and over and then really try to come out of senior year late in the game, and we've already filled up all our spots. And so we have to turn students away in the process. It's the part that breaks my heart every time because it's really hard to get this all done really fast. When should you be building your college list? This should be happening in 11th grade at minimum. January, you should have your list done and ready to go and ready to rock, because there's a lot of steps of impressing those top 10 on your list specifically. Now, like I said, some students are willing to put a lot of the work in, and so we'll see them applying to something closer to a 15 school list if they're willing to put the work in. And of course, there's overlaps between a lot of the essays and resume items. But a good list typically has 11 schools. Now, if you're just looking locally, sometimes that list can be 5 or 6, and your kid has a great chance of getting into a lot of those programs. So I'm not saying that you must have, like, I am not someone that's, how do I say this? Like, must be done this way no matter what. For example, I can only work out by getting on the treadmill. No, that's BS. You can do a lot of different things. Same thing goes here. It's gotta be tailored to your child specifically. There's not just one size fits all. That's why when it comes to the college counselor school, typically their strategy of what they do at the average college counselor's office, college counselor, they will look at schools with certain GPA and SAT, ACT scores, and then they have a list of, let's say, 300 colleges. And then schools with lower GPA and SAT, ACT scores, and they give you a list, they have a list of, let's say, another 200 colleges. And then from here, they may be able to tailor it. I've seen a lot of schools, oh, I'm typing and you're not seeing it. I've seen a lot of colleges where, college counselors where they don't even do this for their students, actually. Students are left completely on their own to build their list, without any guidance. This is exactly why, like Jamie asked me, 20%, this is why you see a lot of transfers. It's worth investing in this part of the process, because if you're going to make a $200,000 or $100,000 investment, you're going to want to get the guidance you need. Now, some college counselors I've seen will try to cull this down and tailor the list. Most private schools are able to do that. Now, one of the things I do want you to understand, though, about schools is they don't really give a crap, sorry for my language, if your kid gets into their top choice versus little Johnny gets into their top choice. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. For them, their bragging rights come to when prospective parents come in and they'll say, well, we had a senior that got into UPenn and it was phenomenal. It's obvious our education's amazing. And this other student got into Rutgers and they got into NYU and Columbia and Rice. So they didn't name students. They didn't care it was your kid that got in. So knowing that information, it is their job also to make sure certain students apply to certain schools that have the most likelihood of getting in. So when building the lists, for example, let's say, and this happened with my sister actually, she went to one of the top hardest schools to go to. One of the students, their list, like not even one, a few of those students' safety schools, like 8 of them, was her top choice. And so she didn't get into her top choice, and they ended up rejecting those schools anyways. So there's something to be said about building out these college lists with outside help, and then making sure you're hitting the right deadlines for those applications and doing extra and more to make it much more clear that it is your top choice. My parents kind of botched it with their firstborn. She still turned out okay, so no worries, but they made sure the second time around they had some hard conversations with the college counselor about saying, look, if this is Neha's top choice, like, how are we building out the lists? What is going on here? Because in the end, it doesn't really matter to them where I went to college. I mean, even now I go back and they're like, where'd you go to school again? What's your name? And I went to a tiny school. So if you look at the fact that the average student goes to a high school that has upwards of 500 on averages in each grade, well, that means that, and that's a low number. That means they are not building this list, from what I've noticed and from what we've seen over and over. We don't see someone actually going through, all of these factors with a child and spending a few hours on building out this list. And then we see a lot of this happen because they don't know what they're doing. And then it's really much better to have very deep discussions. And it's really important that when you're building out this list, you don't hate the safeties. I mean, Gladys is asking a great question. Let me overlay that for you guys to see. It's a beautiful question, Gladys. Thank you for asking. what if we are totally happy with safety schools? Can we skip the target schools? So Gladys, this is a beautiful question. It's a great question. And you absolutely can. Like I said, the factors that are non-numerical are so important. And here's another question, which is really good. So it really depends. We would like to get into a reach school, yet happy with a safety school. So this is a beautiful example for what I'm talking about. Parents will use this language with me all the time. We would be very happy with just the safety schools. It's fine, but we would still like to try for reach schools. So I totally get that, Gladys. It is important to make sure that you're building out a list that is balanced for your child based on the types of schools they want to go to. Do not apply to colleges your kids will absolutely say no to. There are times where I have to go through a list and the kids, I'm like, if you got into this school, would you go? And they're like, no, I won't. So why take all the hours, times, resources, energy into making an application for a school you don't even care to go to, and you're taking up spots for other kids that may dream to go there? If you are happy and with the safety schools you apply to, Gladys, go for it. Like, that's what matters for your kid. But it doesn't hurt to try for reach schools. I tell parents this all the time. Like, this is the most important step of the process, is building out the college list and understanding the importance of it. I'll tell you a great example. I was on Stanford's campus. There's a video of me. If you haven't seen it, it's really cute. But I was on Stanford's campus, and there were like 8-year-olds on campus, like just exploring, seeing, every age group was there. So I urge you to visit a college campus, even if it's near your house, to let your kid get a feel of it, get a sense of it. For some parents, I've even assigned the exercise of sending their kid to a really low level, like, type of community college. And I know this sounds a little bit harsh, but sometimes perspective cannot be just given verbally. It needs to be given in an immersive way. And so I had this mom actually who had a kid who was not focused on their grades anymore, was really giving up. And I said, not a problem. Just how about on Saturday, just in the morning, say, hey, I wanted to take you to this one place. Let's go. Get him in the car, take him to a school that's really scary, like a really scary looking college, and say, just so you know, you will have to go to this college the way you're going right now. Like, that's your dream school, the way you're going. And I hate to say this, guys, but it's about giving perspective. That kid, he turned his grades around like this. He was like, that's it. I want to tutor. I want to get in. No, I don't want to do this. I'm killing my baseball career. The kid's like, I think now he's playing like in the baseball league or whatever it is he plays. But it's really exciting to see that, like, sometimes perspective really matters. And I also had to sit down one-on-one with this kid to really get them focused. Okay, let's see here. Would you say reach schools are top 10 or top 25 schools? Gladys, beautiful question. Top 10 schools are definitely reach schools. For example, Ivy League schools are all reach schools, period. Great question. Top 25, it really depends on the student. Like I said earlier, if your child, let's say, has a perfect GPA and a 1550 on the SAT, well, the college admissions process, the world is their oyster. So a lot of those schools will be vying for your kid. So I think it's really important to realize that it really depends. And that's why it's very nuanced. It's not, there's no, hard, fast rule when it comes to building a college list. And so that's why we work with students one-on-one to take a look, to build out the list, to look at the different factors, to study, hundreds of colleges to see what is going to make the most sense for your child. Because the last thing I want is for parents that, are trying to build this list with their kid. They don't have the conversations around all of these things. The teenager is focused on weird things like random stuff. And then they build out a list, and it's just not a good list, as we would say, in the college world. But eventually, my goal is that every child that applies to college feels that they can build a very extensive list that's the right fit for them, so that they don't feel stressed about the process. The second thing is, I really want kids to go to the school that's good for them. Period. Right? Like, every child should go to college and feel excited. They should go to orientation and be like, I'm in the right place. I want every kid to be able to feel like they're studying the right major so that when they graduate, they have incredible jobs or opportunities. I want kids to go to schools that they love so much that they become incredible alumni and really represent. I'll tell you a great example. I got a card. Let me pull it. I got a card recently on my desk. No joke. From a Rice trustee. Check that out. Rice trustee from the Rice Alumni School, right? The alumni. I couldn't believe it. It was a beautiful handwritten note. They just found what I was doing. Dear Neha, I'm writing on behalf of the Association of Rice Alumni to congratulate you on your professional success in your college consulting efforts. You found a career for yourself that is needed, successful, and rewarding. That is all three of things we believe at here at Rice University. As we all know, a choice of college is so important for families, and it sounds like you found an extremely effective way to help students in their college search while developing a successful business and to be a role model for children. As your fellow alums, we will be cheering you from the sidelines and wishing you continued success. These are the types of schools that you want your kid going to, that write your kid a handwritten note 10 years, 20 years later that makes them feel proud of where they went. That's why this video is so important, because I want to make sure your kid is going to schools that will be cheering them from the sidelines. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've pinned a comment below that lets you know to get your free roadmap here today. And if you are wanting help with building out that college list with your child, we would absolutely love to do that with you. Shoot us a message. If you pull up to the top of my page, it hits send message. Send us a message and let us know specifically on how we can absolutely help and serve you. Gladys has a great question here. I'm going to answer this as my last question here. What is the average number of hours you spend on each client from summer after junior year till applications are due? Gladys, this is a phenomenal question. I'm going to go ahead and link into my video right now, specifically the consulting page, so you can review that. And what you can do is see kind of all the different steps that we do in the process. But typically, depending on where the child is at and what they're doing, average number of hours, Gladys, that's really hard to give you. Let me explain to you why. When a student works with us, they work with a lead consultant on building the college list, brainstorming the essays, building out the resume. But then there's a second or third consultant, depending on which package, that is going to be editing every single essay. Now, I've done some videos showing of me editing an essay where I edited like a 200 to 300 word essay and it took at least an hour. So it's hard for me, Gladys, to give you an average amount of hours. But what I can tell you is that when you look at all the editing involved and the amount of time it takes, it really depends on if the student's applying to 4 colleges, 10 colleges, or 20 colleges. There's more work involved. If they're applying to a school like a Stanford that has upwards of 10 different essays, that's going to require a lot more work. So it's going to be a different level of package, a different level of investment. So it's hard for me to answer that question for you on how much time we spend because it's customized to each child. Just like the college list needs to be customized to each child as well. And like I said earlier, I truly believe that we can actually eliminate the transferring of colleges if you are understanding the importance of building the college list. I truly believe this concept of going to a school your first year, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling like you have no friends, getting into depression or the wrong friend circle, and then having to transfer to community college to then transfer into the school you want is not the most effective plan. I do not believe in it. I don't think it's a great idea. And most parents, if they look back, wish they had had a better choice for their child early on and they invested at the right point of time, which is making sure you find the right fit for your kid. There's nothing more exciting than every August when my students will be unpacking their bedding on the college dorm in the room they wanted. There's nothing more exciting than when a student is saying bye to their parents and they're really excited to start their freshman year. There's nothing more exciting than when I get emails from students that are like, Neha, thank you so much. You know, your consultants were amazing. I'm still pinching myself. I can't believe I'm at this college. It's like I finally fit in. I've never felt like I fit in high school. And now I feel like I actually fit in with the right people. That's why we do what we do every day at College Shortcuts. So I hope you've enjoyed this video specifically on making sure that you understand the importance of the college list. This is not something to be taken lightly. It is very important to understand that the college list can absolutely make or break this entire process, and why you should take time and you should ask those beautiful questions to your child. Because in my opinion, I think it can make all the difference in your child's entire life and in their entire future. And if you're going to be investing so much money, you know, the average tuition is $30,000 to $70,000 a year. It makes sense to invest in finding the best list, the best choice, the best fit for your child, and making sure that they're happy, healthy, and excited about college. So thank you so much again for joining on. I'm going to do a quick commercial here to end our video, specifically about the importance of resilience, perseverance, and making sure you understand why getting a coach can be so powerful. All right, guys, have an amazing day. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below and let me know what you think so I can improve and make sure everything is amazing for tomorrow's video. Thanks. Bye.